Good evening. So we live tonight with Juanita Buerta, and we are going to be chatting about hard times go to your heart and into your soul. So, just the growth that you get from hard times. Juanita, how's it going?
Good, thanks, and you, Quentin?
Lekker, man. Okay, cool. So yeah, the article is actually one by Les Brown. I follow Les Brown quite a bit and have for quite some time. So Les Brown, if you don't know, is also one of the top, I think, world's motivational speakers. He does a lot of corporate, or used to do a lot of corporate stuff, and so he talks about this in this article. Again, is just for most of us, life offers abundant opportunities for both laughters and tears. I think sometimes it's more tears than laughter, but yeah. When it's laughter, you got to make the most of that and enjoy that, because you can't have one without the other, I guess.
Well, life is not like this. It's not a straight line where everything is just always a constant joy or constant sadness or hardship or hard times. So life goes like this, and that's a challenge. And I think that's what he's talking about, is just about how do we go with the tough, the hard parts and the bad times. So as to when it's a good time, is for us to really appreciate when it's around, and then when the tougher times come along, is for us to figure out how we actually cope with that and deal with it. I mean, I think that's the tougher part. That's definitely, when things go well, Quentin, that's, we don't really think about that so much, but it's when the tough things come along that we have to then figure out, okay, so what's next? And that's always the difficult thing. And I think that's where a lot of people really struggle, because it's not always easy, depending on what it is that you're going through.
Yeah. I think you mentioned it somewhere further down, but also just, it's always easy to be positive when things are going good, or be happy and that when things are going good, and that's quite true. It's tough keeping your chin up when things aren't going that good.
Exactly.
That's where the growth, or that's where the character comes out, I suppose.
No, and it exactly it is, and I think what happens is that when we're in the moment, so when things are good, we're obviously living in the euphoria of things going well and whatever the case might be. But the reality is that that won't last.
Yes.
That, as that's just the reality of it. Would we like to? Absolutely, but unfortunately, life is just like that. Something is going to come along that is going to change that, or is going to impact that. Does that mean that life isn't still good? No, it doesn't. I think it's just about how you choose to focus on it at the time. And unfortunately, this is a topic that I'm going to say this is a topic that I unfortunately have lots of experience with. So,
I think I can add to that. Yeah. Definitely.
Because I was just going through the article. He was just he talks about when someone you love is taken away, when a catastrophic illness strikes you or a family member, when your lifetime job is suddenly downsized, when the relationship that has kept you going falls apart, when you go through the emotional torment of a divorce, when your grown children refuse to grow up, and when your teenager decides they are adults, and I can tick off all of those except two. I've been fortunate enough that I've I haven't been my job hasn't really been impacted, so I've been very fortunate as far as that's concerned. But now in COVID, obviously, I've had salary cuts. So I suppose that really falls in that category. But as far as the rest are concerned, unfortunately, I can say that I've got experience in every single one of those. And I just have to laugh at the one of the kids, when your grown children decide they're still teenagers and they don't want to move out of home. So fortunately, I don't have one of those. But you know, we do, and I can relate to it, because unfortunately we have a scenario like that in our family, you know, so so I
Yes.
can absolutely relate to it. So, and the thing is, Quentin, it doesn't matter who we talk to, you know, if I have to go ask you on the list, okay, which of those can you go and tick? I know you can tick the divorce one, okay? You know,
Yeah,
and
no,
your
listen,
daughter,
I can pretty much tick all of those just about, except
exactly,
the teenager one. Because I definitely got
exactly.
to, when your teenagers decide they are adults, well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, she's not even a teenager yet and they're already adults. So, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. You know, so the reality is that we all have been touched by all of those things or some of those things. And if you haven't, the reality is that we all are going to be touched by one of those things, and
Yeah.
probably a few other things that are not on the list either. And and he says if we can prepare ourselves for the fact that these things are going to happen, then, you know, then we can prepare ourselves better for it. Not that you can ever prepare yourself for the loss of a child or the death of a family, you know.
Yeah. Certain things. Yeah.
No, no, but and so the reality is that sometimes those things happen to people much faster than you wanted to. You know, we all live in the hope that our parents are going to be around for a long time, all of those kinds of things. But the reality is that unfortunately, even those things don't happen. And so of course they do come at a time when, you know, you least prepared for it.
Yeah.
And so I think if you do prepare yourself for the fact that sometime in your life that difficult things are going to come along, you know, I you know, it's like you can't live in euphoria all the time. That's not, life's not like that.
Yes.
But it is about your mindset. You know, and last week's session I touched on that, you know, where I said that I had a choice, and I could choose to go and sit in the corner and feel sorry for myself, or I could get up and I could say, okay, well, tomorrow the sun's going to come up, and then life's going to carry on. Whether I choose to sit in the corner or not, life is going to carry on. That's a constant. That is just how it is. And so how we then choose to and what we choose to make of that is the thing.
And
And
yeah, and I think that one thing, yeah, that also that I must say is that, and I think this is, you know, this, it's quite funny because as we've spoken over the last few weeks and stuff like that, I've noticed that there's certain patterns that come up with all of these sort of, it doesn't matter which topic you choose, whether it's fear and anxiety, whatever it is, there's a common thread that sort of comes through with a lot of it.
correct.
And the one thing is you know, but what about the keys to living? No, let me just go back. So and yet where do we, basically saying, where do we learn to deal with those, with challenges, hard times and difficulties? In school we're just taught to learn to read and write, but you know what the key, do you know what the keys to living is? Where do you enroll for life 101? And I was just I'd laughed when I saw that too. I was like, yeah, when you find that university, let me know, please. But
But that's
I'm going,
exactly it.
yeah,
You know, I mean,
called
how
life.
amazing would it be if we could be, if somebody could prepare you for that? But it would be fantastic. And that's unfortunately the hard part, is that there is no university that can prepare us for any of the things that come along our way. You know, even the good things, Quentin. You
Yeah,
know, so that's the thing, and it is quite funny. So I suppose from a mindset perspective, you know, if we approach it from the perspective that sometime, somewhere along our lives, um, something is going to come along that is going to be really difficult to deal with.
yes,
And you know, as I say, and some of the things unfortunately are definitely more difficult to deal with than other things. But you know what? The thing is also each person deals with it differently. That's the thing. And that's why there can't be a university 101 to teach you that. Because there is no cookie cutter mold or a set way of dealing with it.
yes.
And that's what makes it tough, you know. I mean, if I could have said to you, okay, well, Quentin, when you were going through your divorce, this is how you must deal with it.
No, no.
if what worked for me may not have worked for you, and vice versa.
100%. Yeah, the scenarios, or there's also too many variables and stuff like that as well. But yeah, so I think,
but it comes back to mindset, Quentin, and that's the constant. You know, that is the constant, is our approach and how we choose to deal with what comes along our way. You know, I mean, you could have, you know, you guys, as I say, we all choose. So, and as I say, the divorce one is a good example, because I think there are lots of people who go through it. How you and I dealt with our divorces is obviously different. But I think that there are a lot of people who just never seem to be able to get over it. And they choose to use the children as pawns against one another. But those are always choices that you make.
Yeah.
And is that the best choice for your children? No. So it doesn't matter what comes along your way. It is about how I choose to deal with that, and I'm going to allow it to impact my life or not.
Yes.
And that's just the simple thing.
Yeah. So I think also, what they speak about is when the punches keep coming and keep rolling and stuff like that. That's where, it's okay to have a half bad day and then be half positive or whatever, and that, but to have a knock after a knock after a knock, that's where it can literally break you. And then that's obviously that's where the character side of things, I think, also building of character, like we're talking about kids and stuff like it, like I see with my daughter and stuff, is, it's the hard things that we all learn more from. 100%. When things is easy in that, then there's nothing really to be learned. It's the hard, it's the difficult ones that teach you the lessons that you need to be taught. And also, I think a lot of times is if the same shit's happening to you all the time, then you've also got to ask yourself, what's the lesson that I'm not learning? Because there's a lesson to be that you haven't learned, and that's tough. That
100%. That's that is absolutely tough, and that's why I'm saying is it is about a mindset and an understanding that there is a lesson to learn in it. And did and the thing is, did bad things happen to people, but is it necessarily for you to learn a lesson? Not necessarily. Death of a child, the death of a family member is not necessarily because you've got to learn a lesson. But the reality is that you can learn something out of the circumstances that you're in. You can learn something from that. It's what you choose, what that lesson is going to be. And now for me, that that shapes who you become ultimately. It I think when I don't know, and so this is really probably a generalization when I say some people just look like they just cruise through life and bad things that happen to them, but the reality is that it does. They maybe just not showing it. They just have a different way of dealing with it, and but at some other stage, it's going to come. Some people might go through half their life before anything happens to them. Some of them never get divorced, and so that never happens to anyone. But the reality is, somewhere along in life, you're going to lose someone. That's just fact. That's just how it is. It is how we cope with that. That makes it tough. And it's, and as I say, when we talk about it, we just, we're not trying to be flippant about it at all. But the thing is, I think, Quentin, is that you and I've had the knocks in life, and we've come through them, and we've learned to cope with them, and they've made us tougher, and they've made us really be able to become different kind of people.
Yes.
So if we look back on it now, was it great going through it when you did at the time? No, hell. So out of choice, would I choose to go through any of those things? No. But looking back on it now, I can definitely say that there were massive life lessons that I learned through all of those things.
Yes.
And those life lessons have stood me in really good stead in my life going forward. So, so good has come from the bad, very definitely.
Cool. Yeah. So, so I just, I think we mentioned already that they say there are times when you want to say to life or whoever, please give me a break. Just give me a chance to catch my breath. And I'm laughing about it because I can relate to it. That's why I'm laughing.
Yes.
But life doesn't listen. Sometimes, as soon as we raise our heads, it knocks us back down, such as life. And so then they speak about, believing is powerful. And we said, that's why I said there's common threads. No matter which article you choose or what topic you choose, the same thread seems to come through in that. Saying again, believing is powerful, believing in yourself. And then again, they talk about affirmations and stuff like that, which is a common one that keeps coming up or whatever. That age-old thing of basically self-talk, and that we mentioned that last week as well. How important that is because I think also when it's easy to snowball when things are going wrong, and then you're actually just adding fuel to the fire, and it's a vicious circle. That stopping that is actually very difficult. Now again, there's certain exercises like self-talk or affirmations, so those kind of things that you can do to basically change the direction, if you want to call it that.
Well, you see, I think that's where the ability to be able to, when you recognizing the fact that's where your mind's going, and that's where mindset and affirmations and all of the things that we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks just really helps you. And some people are, I want to say, almost has a natural ability to be able to do those things and then and seem to cope better with tough times.
Yes.
Whereas other people take the knocks much harder, and they can't really get out of it. And so sometimes they need, the big thing is that you've got to recognize that sometimes you need help from somewhere else. You need help from other people, professionals that can help you through those situations. Because not everybody can get through stuff, and I'm thinking about friends of mine who lost their son in a car accident in his matric year. And Quentin, they have not been able to get over it. Not that you will ever will, okay? I've lost 3 people in my life, my parents and my sister, so I know, never get over it. And the best way that I always describe that is that when you lose someone, you're going to have this big gaping wound. And that wound is going to heal over time. And then something happens, an event, a birthday, a Christmas, or whatever. And then the scab is scratched off again and that wound is exposed again. And and it's going to be sore and tender and it's really going to be terrible. But the wound then starts healing again. But as life goes on, you eventually end up with a scar. So that memory is always there. You're always going to have it. You've just learned to live with it. And that's what it is. And they've struggled to learn to live with it. And that moment has had enormous impact on both of their lives, extensively. They never really learned to cope with it. And that's, I think, the big thing, is that you have to learn to cope with it, because tomorrow comes and the sun's going to come up. And then what are you going to do? And that's where the choices come from. And so you can choose for that moment to really make your life bad for the rest of your life, or allow it for you to learn to live with it. Not forget the person. It's not what it's about. It's about learning to live with it and cope with it, and building what's the word that I'm looking for? Skills that will help you to cope with it. And that's what mindset does. Mindset is a skill development. There are tools and techniques that you're developing to teach you to cope with when the tough times come. It teaches how to cope with those things so that you can come out fine on the other end.
So out of curiosity now, so for you, when you say working on mindset and stuff like that, so I think everybody's got a different idea of what that entails. What when you say work on mindset and stuff like that, what do you mean by that? What would be your sort of procedure? This is what I do, or this is how I do it, or what's your sort of step-by-step guide, if you want to call it, type thing?
So I think, Quentin, the most important thing is to recognize that we start playing this movie in our heads and we spoke about this last week as well, where we start preempting what we think is going to actually happen. And we play this movie in our head. And the important thing is that when that happens, we're not living in the now.
Yeah.
We are living in the future, and we're imagining what is going to happen and what's not, and how our lives are going to be, and all of those kinds of things. And Les Brown talks about it in this article, where he says, what's really important when these things happen to you is that you have to live in the now, in the present. And that is one of the techniques that you get taught with mindset, is how you do that, is to recognize when you're starting to play this movie in your head of something that hasn't even happened. It's not a reality.
It has happened, that you're rehashing and
correct
auto rewind all the time.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I was reading an article earlier on today around where why is it that people are so focused on the negative rather than the positive? And in the article they talk about that you actually have to have, in order for people to, for the bad to start outweighing the good, the good needs to be 5 times more than the bad. So then that starts sticking in your head. But unless you start teaching yourself how to focus and find the positives and the good things in every single thing that happens. And that's what mindset does. Mindset teaches you that skill set of, I'm in a bad situation, how do I find the good? And it's about every dark cloud has a silver lining. And that is absolutely so. We just need to learn to go and see the silver lining. Yes. And the thing is when we're going through the bad moments and the bad clouds, and when they're gathering, they start overwhelming us, and then we struggle to see the good. And mindset teaches you those skills. And that's why it's really important to develop the techniques and affirmations and gratefulness, and practicing the fact that what is it that I'm grateful for today? The more you do that, the more you're going to actually start seeing the good things in your life and not just the bad things in your life. But it is something that you have to practice and work at every single day. It's not something that just happens. And you mentioned that last week, just because I go to gym today doesn't mean that the next day I'm going to have massive muscles because I've been to the gym once. It's exactly the same thing.
I wish it worked like that sometimes.
So do I. So do I. It would be
to
fantastic.
Gym once every 6 months and you fit in as that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It would be brilliant if it worked that way, and if it was that simple. And I think that's what makes it difficult, Quentin, it is the fact that it isn't easy. It's not easy, but it's about the desire of wanting to develop the skills and use them to benefit you, no matter what comes along your path. And that's the important thing. And that's what we've got to focus on, is that, if we realize that bad things are going to happen to people, then we can prepare ourselves through developing certain skill sets. And that is going and living a life of abundance and seeing the things that you have, that you have, living an abundant life. There's so much to be grateful for every single day. And it's for us just to wake up every single day and go and find those things, the smallest of things. It doesn't matter. And for us to then focus on those things. And, and Robin Banks talks a lot about that, is going and focusing on the positives every single day rather than the negatives. We're so quick to see the bad before we see the good. We really have to go and work hard to go and find the good before we see it. But the bad, we like that. Yeah. and that becomes our focus. And that's what you've got to train your mind, is how do I move my mind from the negative to the positive?
Yes.
And these exercises that we're talking about is what helps you do that.
Yeah, I also think for myself, you know, I was just thinking now we've got a time, we're in a time and place where we've got YouTube, where we've got endless access to the
Yeah.
top names in motivational speaking and all the stuff or whatever at our fingertips. And a lot, and I mean, obviously it's not, I wouldn't say it's the same as going maybe and buying a full Tony Robbins book where you're reading the whole thing or whatever. It might just be snippets of things and stuff like that. But still, you're getting some of it. I wouldn't say it's just a replacement that's all you need, and you don't need to ever buy another book again and never have to go on another course or anything like that again. But sure as hell, it's for free. So you know, there's some stuff on YouTube and that you got access to, that and free webinars and stuff like that get circulated now. All the guys do it. Robin Banks, all those guys do it. Free webinars and stuff that you can go on and plug into. And get a lot of it for free. So you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago. The only way you had access to that kind of stuff was by going and spending serious money or buying books and stuff like that, which you don't have to do now. So I know for me, you know, especially when things are tough and stuff like that, I know the first thing for myself is I need to plug into something, because if I don't, my mind will just go nuts. So
exactly.
And that's quite funny when you're in that situation. It's difficult to pick up your phone and go, okay, now I'm going to go and listen to, you know what I mean? Because you tend to, you know, I'd rather just go watch TV or I'll have a beer or whatever it is instead. You know what I mean? It's quite funny.
And you know, and sometimes it's also good to do those things, Quentin.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always have to go and listen to a Les Brown or whoever else. Sometimes it's just go and take a walk, go have a beer with your friends, just watch some mindless program on TV. The thing is with that, it's just cannot become the habit. That's the thing, you know. So it is about an accumulation of different things that you do that help, because you've learned what are the things that you need to do, that when you've had a bad day or when things are really tough, you've started learning what the things are that you need to do, and you're starting to do those things because you know that that's what helps you. You know, and I mean, even these conversations that you and I have, you know, they are, for me, is that they make me feel amazing. You know, it's just it energizes me enormously just to be able to have this conversation, and that adds massive value. So sometimes it's just good, you know, sometimes just verbalizing something and putting it out there and speaking to someone rather than keeping it to yourself. Those things, you know, it's all old cliches, but you know, they may be cliche, but they all work. But that's the reality of it. They're real. They're steeped in truth. That's the thing. They're steeped in truth.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah, so yeah, I mean the rest of the article basically, it's quite a short article. We have to live life with a sense of urgency, so not a minute is wasted. Failure, defeat, and loss afflict us all. Expect it and learn to deal with it, and then learn to get back to life without waiting for an invitation. That's quite funny. And then one way to do that is to trust in a power greater than yourself and to believe good things are going to follow. Great things will occur when you get up, dust yourself off, and go at life with renewed determination and courage. I know Les Brown's always the one, he always says, you know, if you're going to fall, just make sure that you at least end up on your, when you fall, you end up on your back, so that you can still look up and see the sky and know that you can get back up again. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you know, that's absolutely what it's about, is that we've got to be able to get up. And I mean, it's, you know, it's the story I was telling you, Nana, with my friends, you know, they just never got to that point where you know, they could really get up and live again. They just never gave themselves the permission to do so. And you can. You know, I think a lot of people end up living with the guilt to say, well, I'm going to carry on with my life, and then live with guilt because they're doing it. And the guilt's misplaced. So yeah, so the reality is that life is short, Quentin. Life's very short. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So don't live with regrets. You know, is live the life that you really want to have, and focus on what it is that you want. Focus on the positives, because then you will attract that into your life.
Yeah.
That is what you want to do, is even when you're going through a bad time, is find the good and the positives and think and focus on those things, because that is what you will then attract into your life. But if you're going to continue focusing on the negative and the bad that's happening, what are you going to do? You're going to continue attracting the bad into your life. And that is what you want to change.
Yeah. And I think it's, I can speak for myself on this one. Is I think a lot of times when they say be grateful and stuff like that, we always want to make it a big thing, like, you know, be grateful that you got whatever, and it's not necessarily that. I know with that Robin Sharma masterclass thing that I did or whatever, you know, he speaks about it's the little things. It's genuinely the little things. It's the fact that you got you well and healthy, and I know it's again very cliched, but sitting and going, oh, I'm grateful because I'm healthy and I'm thing, and not feeling it and actually feeling it, saying it, and that's one thing. It doesn't, it's nothing. But actually feeling it and stuff like that, that's something else, because you can literally look at a tree outside and be grateful for a tree. I mean, it sounds stupid, but yeah, it's literally something that's cool.
When it's hot like today, you are grateful for a tree, you know?
Listen, you were at Swartkops today with the racing. So that's why I said that place, the last time I was there, got the umbrella out, umbrella broke. So I sat under a broken umbrella the whole day. But I tell you what, I would have been very grateful for a fully grown tree, not a small one, a big one.
Exactly. You know, and the thing is, you know, and I think COVID really taught us that, is that the things that we took for granted every single day were suddenly taken away from us. You know?
You know, if you speak to somebody, if I'd spoken, we've said this, I think also, is it, if it's, you know, some of the things that has happened this year, if it's told somebody that late last year, they would have thought that you've gone cuckoo. Because it's like you couldn't, I mean, a movie wouldn't have been even half the crap that's happened and stuff like that. So
exactly.
I think a lot of things, it's totally upset a whole lot of things, but it's also just put everything in perspective as well, on actually how spoiled we could be and stuff like that. You know, you always, I remember speaking to my grandparents and stuff, and they'd tell you about the war and how, you know what I mean? And you're always like, I mean, I was young then, but I mean, you always were like, yeah. And how tough and hard they actually had it. We've got no idea. And I think, with COVID and that, is definitely it's an eye opener.
100%. But you know, how many people have already forgotten about that now? And we only just coming out of it. You know, that the fact that we at one stage couldn't even go out the front door, Quentin, to go and walk around the block. And so that is something to be absolutely grateful for, is that I can now go out my door and I can take my dog for a walk if I wanted to. You know, I could take myself for a walk. You know, those are the small little things that we just took all of those things for granted every single day. The fact that I could, you know, just go and visit my friends when I chose to. You know, that I could interact with people when I chose to. And so that little thing, the word choice, that was what was taken away from us for a period of time. It was personal choice to choose what it is that you want to do. And that's what this article is about for Les Brown, is about you having the power to choose. What you choose is up to you at the end of the day. And that's what happened in COVID, is that choice was taken away from us. And that is the thing, the appreciation to understand, and the freedom of choice, because some people don't have that, not even outside of COVID. I mean, in some countries, there's, you know, you're told what you can and can't do. So yeah, so it's the little things that we don't recognize, and you know, it's the fact that you can open the tap and water comes out. I mean, I was just reading the article about PE that's now sitting with the water problems. You know,
Yeah, they on I think November's D-Day or something like it, somewhere around there. Yeah.
you see, so so it's those kinds of things that we take those things, everyday things, for granted. We don't think about them, but we
Yeah.
take them for granted. And that's the thing, you know, and we sometimes just need these big things to happen to make us realize, but there are lots of good things in life, and we just need to go and find and see them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But it takes practice for us to do that, you know. It's not something that comes naturally to us. I think, as I said earlier, and I think some people are better at it naturally than others. But some people have to really work very hard at it. But you know, doesn't matter whether I see myself as a positive person or not. I still have to work at it. There are times where I'm not.
It doesn't, yeah, it's something that you continuously just day by day just keep adding to or doing as an exercise or whatever. But I think a lot of people, like you say, do it naturally. Whereas a lot of people, you know, I can say for like myself, you have to put a lot more work into it. It doesn't come easy, a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, and if I had to look at Philip and I, for me it comes easier than it comes for him. He needs to work much harder at it than I do.
Yes.
But you know, but he, you know, he's you know, for me, as I say, that GoPro event that we went to with in 2017, I told you the story. You know, Philip, he's not a rah-rah person, but after that 3-hour session with Tony Robbins, I mean, Philip was rah-rah like I've never seen him in my life. But that moment had such a fundamental impact on Philip. It really had. It really, really did. And he realized in that moment the importance of your mindset and how your mindset can determine how you live your life. You know, so I promised to just send the photograph, but I keep forgetting. I must find it so I can send it to you. Philip's rah-rah moment. I'll find it. But yeah, I think I might even have a video. But yeah,
so that's blackmail material, eh?
Correct.
So Pierre, I think Pierre, obviously Pierre's in PE in that. So Pierre just made a comment here now. She said she's obviously watching. She said we are being taught to keep positive in PE. Smiley face, smiley face. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Pierre. You guys now have to go and look at what are the positives in PE, because there are lots, you know. And that's the thing, is that what happens is when a big event like that happens, is that overwhelms every other good thing that you do have.
Yes.
Because it's such a massive thing. And so then what happens is that you can't see the wood for the trees, you know. And that's the challenge now, is that you've got to go, and because there are lots of good things in PE, but it makes it really difficult when you don't have water, which is a basic thing. It makes it incredibly difficult not to see the other good things, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, cool. So that was the end of the thing that I mentioned there. Now I don't know if there's any. I mean, from my side, I think it's again, you know, trying to. I think these articles or every topic that we speak about and that has certain things that come through common threads. So basically, again, you know, learning to deal with stuff and that, and understanding that it's going to happen. You know, it's not necessarily that you've been a bad person and didn't go to church on Sunday. So now there's things that happen to you. It's just shit happens, and it happens to everybody. Like you mentioned, obviously certain people just naturally deal with it better than others. And then, you know, again, believing in yourself and basically what they're talking about is different phrases to say to yourself and that, but basically it's again, just, what do you call it? Self-talk or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything, last thing that you want to add or.
Yeah, no, you know, I think last statement, believing is powerful, you know, and that is absolutely, and believing in yourself. That's the important thing, you know. It requires knowing that your life has value and there is hope. That's really powerful, really, really
Yes.
is. And then find positive expressions that work for you and put them on cards where you can see them during the day. So if you think, you know, if you're the kind of person that I think can tend to focus on the negative, if you're putting positive things on cards all over, you know, you're forcing yourself, because you're forcing to see yourself to see all of those kinds of things. So those are great ideas and great tools for people to use. It's just about starting to do them, and that's the thing. So for me, I want to go and say is that this was for me personally, this was a very valuable lesson for me, is that I can go and sit in the corner and I can feel sorry for myself. But the reality is that tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and the sun is going to come up. And I have a choice that I can either sit in that corner and feel sorry for myself, or I can get up and I can dust myself off and I can try and make the best of that particular day. And I'll take one day at a time. But the sun is going to rise every single day. So how is it that I want to live my life when the sun rises? That for me personally was a very powerful thing. And that helped me through many a bad day.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for your time on that again, Juanita. And that if you're watching this, if you're watching this on the replay on my page or Juanita's page, give us a like. If it's on Juanita's page, share the live if you think somebody else could get some positiveness out of it, whatever you call it. And then the same for my page. If you see it on my page, and that, give us a like, give us a comment, give us something. Just let us know what you think. If you agree, if you don't agree, we'd love to hear whatever. All right, cool. Thank you, Juanita. And we'll see you next week again, same time.
Thanks, Quentin. Keep well. Enjoy the week. Bye.